Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of digital fate. I'm Richie, this is Capricorn, and we just got a metric ton of new information dropped at MagicCon about everything coming to Magic the Gathering in 2026. So buckle up, we're going to go over all of the announced information. They unveiled every single set that's coming next year. Surprise, we're getting 7 standard legal sets instead of 6, and 4 of them are Universes Beyond, which is kind of insane. But there was also just one surprise set that they didn't announce yet. They have a placeholder for it, but I've heard some rumors, and I think I have it figured out exactly what that set's going to be. So we're going to dive in, unpack all of this. Please like, subscribe, do all the things, and let's make it happen. So first of all, here is the timeline that they showed for everything coming in 2026. In January, specifically January 23rd, we get Lorwyn Eclipsed, which is the return to the Lorwyn plane that everybody has been so looking forward to. This is a set that originally was slated to come out as the last set in 2025, but they replaced that with the Avatar: The Last Airbender expansion instead and pushed Lorwyn Eclipsed into January of 2026. I'm really looking forward to this set. Next up, we've got an unannounced Universes Beyond set in March, which I have some theories about that we'll get to in just a little bit. And then in April, we have Secrets of Strixhaven. We're finally returning to Strixhaven, which is kind of like Magic's in-universe version of like Harry Potter, like the Hogwarts school. It's kind of that kind of vibe, witches and wizards and that sort of thing. Then in June, they're doing Marvel Superheroes, which is the second Marvel set after Spider-Man. There's going to be a full standard set release, which is interesting. I have some thoughts about that I'll get to later. And then in August, we're actually getting The Hobbit as a full standard legal set, which honestly is kind of exciting. I always assumed they would go back to Lord of the Rings one way or another, but I didn't think that they would shift focus specifically to The Hobbit and then return to a set that's going to happen in standard. So being able to do a version of like a Lord of the Rings set with some of the themes and characters that will be legal in standard is kind of interesting. I don't know how I feel about Universes Beyond in standard as a whole, but I am very excited about the Hobbit set. Then in October, they're doing a set that's called Reality Fracture, which they were saying some really crazy stuff about. They have a lot to say about this set that they can't say yet, and we'll break that all down in just a little bit. And then in November, they're actually doing a Star Trek set, which makes sense since we just got Edge of Eternities that gave us mechanics that have to do with starships and that sort of thing. So a pretty packed 2026, 7 full standard legal sets, and you'll probably notice that 4 of them are Universes Beyond. I don't know if that's a good thing to do more Universes Beyond than Universes Within, but we'll get to that later. First, let's dive into the first set that they unveiled. So this is Lorwyn Eclipsed. They showed off a bunch of cards, and this is going to be really exciting because Lorwyn and Shadowmoor are now coexisting on the same plane, the plane of Lorwyn, at the same time, which is very different from the first time that we went to Lorwyn, or any time that we went to Lorwyn, to be completely honest. So this set is exciting. They showed off a bunch of the mechanics and a bunch of spoiler cards for this already, and I did another video breaking down all of the spoilers that were already shown for Lorwyn Eclipsed. So if you haven't seen that video yet, I'm going to make sure and link that in the description and the comments so you guys can check that out. We're not going to go over all of the same cards here, so definitely check that out to get all the inside scoop on all of those cards, because there's some really interesting mechanics. There's a lot of cool stuff coming in this set, but there is one card that I did want to take a look at before we move on, and that is the World Championship card that was unveiled for Jean-Emmanuel Depraz. He won the World Championship last year, and he gets a card here called Formidable Speaker, which is looking absolutely insane. This is a 2/4 creature elf druid for 1 green and 2, and when this creature enters, you may discard a card. If you do, search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. You can also pay 1 mana and tap it to untap another target permanent. Either one of these abilities would be absolutely insane on a card. Having them both on the same card is nuts, which kind of makes sense for a World Championship card, to be completely honest, but I love everything about this. Getting a 2/4 body in addition to tutoring up your best creature is exactly what you need to make a tutor like this that costs 3 viable. Being able to have board presence that impacts the board the moment that you play it, instead of having to like take a turn off in order to search up and tutor up a card, makes this so much more playable. It gives you a huge body to stick in front of aggro and stall until you get to play the creature that you searched up on potentially turn 4. And then you have this untap ability, which sometimes can be used to get like a second mana of a certain color that you only have 1 land for. There's like a little bit of a filtering there, but you can also reuse anything that has a tap ability. Agatha's Soul Cauldron is a big one in all of the VV decks right now, although I think VV's going to be banned pretty soon. And if you're watching this in the future, then he's probably already banned and you're laughing to yourself, but this ability is actually really nuts. I think there's a lot you can do with this, and in Reanimator decks it's really cool because you can just like discard your reanimation target and search up like a creature that can reanimate things, of which there are a few even in standard right now. So I think this card's actually really nuts. I go into it a bit more in detail in another video that I'll make sure to link for you guys in the description and in the comments, because I think this is really cool. But let's move on. The next set that I want to talk about, and you guys probably already have it pegged here, that first Secret Universes Beyond set, I think it's going to be the Ninja Turtles set. There have been a lot of rumors, a lot of rumblings over the last year about Ninja Turtles coming to Magic the Gathering. So people are already thinking this might happen at some point. It's looking very likely it's going to happen at some point. But recently they mentioned when they unveiled this timeline that whatever this set is, this first Universes Beyond set that happens next year, it's going to be announced at a Comic-Con in New York, and that just makes all the sense in the world. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles come from the comics. They got their start in the comics. They're most notable as comic book characters, and it would absolutely be something that you would unveil at a Comic-Con, especially in New York City. It just makes all the sense in the world. And like I said, even before they announced that that's how they were going to unveil this set, there were already a ton of people talking about Ninja Turtles potentially being a set coming down the pipeline. There was a lot of rumors flying, so I feel like the fact that it's being unveiled at a Comic-Con in New York just kind of adds further credence to the rumors that were already there, and I would not be surprised at all if the set that we see as the first Universes Beyond set in 2026 ends up being a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know. Let me know how you feel in the comments, but we are going to move on. Next up, we've got Secrets of Strixhaven. This is the return to Strixhaven. If you guys don't remember Strixhaven, it was a pretty cool set. The most notable mechanic was the learn and lesson mechanics. So if you played a spell with learn, you were allowed to search your sideboard for a spell that was type lesson and put it into your hand as part of the learn spell, which was really interesting. It meant that your sideboards mattered in best of 1 or in the first game of a best of 3. It was kind of like a Wish, but powered down. And we did get a bunch of lessons spoiled for the Avatar The Last Airbender set, which is the next set coming, the last set coming of 2025. A bunch of lessons were spoiled for that set, and they specifically reiterated that there won't be any learn spells in the Avatar set, only lessons. And they have some other mechanics that are synergizing with lessons in that set as well. But I don't think it's I don't think it's just I don't think it's by chance that they have lessons coming back right before we're about to go back to Strixhaven. So I have a feeling that we're gonna maybe get some learn cards in Strixhaven, and when we do, the lessons from the Avatar set, the last set coming in 2025, are gonna get even more powerful. So I am excited to see what they got brewing up for Secrets of Strixhaven. They showed off a little bit of art. So here we have a picture of a bunch of characters, pretty much one for each color. It looks like we've got black, or green. This is probably green, and then white, and then black, and then blue, and then this is definitely a red guy. So interesting. We get sort of a feel for the flavor of some of the characters. And then there's also a return to novels coming with Strixhaven, which everybody seems to be really excited about. I really miss official novels and having a more in-depth storyline to follow, and I'm excited that they're bringing that back with Strixhaven. Are we only getting this Omens of Chaos novel just as a one-off with Strixhaven, or does this mark a return to novels entirely? I kind of hope it's a return to novels entirely in that we get one with every single set, and I'm really excited that this is happening, and I hope we just get more. I really do. But next up, we've got the Marvel Superheroes set. So this is the second set that involves Marvel characters. We already got the Spider-Man set, and they pretty much pointed out that this is going to do everything that isn't Spider-Man or X-Men, although it does look like we are going to get a little bit of a dip into X-Men to at least some extent, because we do see Wolverine there. But the main things that they pointed out is, first of all, the Avengers. So we see Iron Man here as some concept art. The Avengers are going to be a big part of this Marvel Superheroes set. Not the entire focus, it's not just an Avengers set, but definitely a big part. So we have Captain America as well. They also said that this set is going to feature a lot of the street level heroes, like the Defenders and Heroes for Hire and that sort of thing. Stuff like Daredevil. I think that's really important, and I'm excited to see some of those cards, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Marvel existing in Magic the Gathering to begin with. If they're gonna do it, they gotta go all the way, right? So getting all of the street level heroes, getting the Avengers, it just makes sense. Next up, we've got another piece of art. They mentioned the fact that the Fantastic Four would be featured in the set as well, which I think is pretty cool. And then we have a piece of art here that shows off a lot of the characters, a lot of the villains specifically, that are also coming in this set. And there's a lot. We've got Doom, we've got Loki, we've got Leader, obviously Thanos is coming, we've also got Ultron. Looks like there's a bunch of Ultrons in the background. That makes me wonder if Ultron's mechanics are going to somewhat involve like multiple copies of himself or something like that. Could be really cool, but there's a lot to dive into here. So if you're excited about Spider-Man, the set that already launched, if you're excited about more Marvel coming, the Avengers and everything else, you can look forward to Marvel Superheroes. This set is gonna be what you want it to be. It's gonna fill in all the gaps. Spider-Man's out of the way. Now let's get all of the mostly non-X-Men Marvel heroes. Let's get them featured in a set. It makes sense. Next up, we've got Magic the Gathering Cross the Hobbit. Very excited about this one. Now, if you guys know me, you know that most of the time I'm not super excited about these Universes Beyond sets. I was super excited about Final Fantasy because I'm a huge Final Fantasy nut, and I was obviously super excited about the Lord of the Rings set because that is just a match made in heaven, and Wizards knows this. Lord of the Rings made so much money and did so well, it only makes sense that they would try to double dip and go back into it, and what better way to do that than with the Hobbit. So the Hobbit set is coming. It is going to be standard legal. Here we have a look at some concept art for the set, My Precious, and we see Gollum with the ring before Bilbo finds it. I would be willing to bet that there is another version of the One Ring coming in this set, and it will also be serialized. I think they want to try to capture lightning in a bottle twice, and they're gonna absolutely do another serialized One Ring. I think it's inevitable. I don't know, I guess the question is it a reprint of the One Ring? Is it just another version of it? Or is it a brand new The One Ring card with new abilities that works a different way? Maybe it's a One Ring that centers around the way it's used in the Hobbit storyline, where it helps you turn invisible and that sort of thing. Maybe the focus is on that aspect of it and not so much, you know, the One Ring to rule them all aspect that was in Lord of the Rings. Either way, I'm really interested to see where they go with this, what this new ring ends up looking like. They're definitely going to do one. I'm also excited to see what the Golem card is like, and honestly, just everything. The Hobbit is one of my favorite children's books from when I was a child that I loved to read when I was younger, and it got me into fantasy in a big way. So I'm really excited to see what they do with this. The Hobbit just makes so much sense. I don't know why I didn't see that coming. And yeah, I'm really excited. My precious. But next up, we have a set that was originally codenamed Ziplining. If you guys remember when they announced the sets coming for 2025-2026, like a year ago, they said, you know, Innistrad Remastered, something that they wouldn't name, Final Fantasy, something they wouldn't. There were all of these code names. Ziplining was the very last one shown off with a code name, and nobody really knew anything about it. Now we know what set this is. It is the end of a huge story arc. It's going to be one of those culminating sets, and it is called Reality Fracture. It comes out in October of 2026, and this, they're saying it's absolutely nuts. They are saying that this is meant to be that big, epic, like huge scope story ending saga, similar to War of the Spark for Ravnica, where all of the planeswalkers pretty much ever came together to fight off Nicol Bolas. That was like this huge story ending epic event. And also with the Phyrexian Invasion sets ending with, you know, March of the Machine, and that huge story ending being like this big epic end to a multi-set arc. Reality Fracture is supposed to be something similar, but also they were kind of tight-lipped, but also kind of like hinting at what's coming in Reality Fracture, and they were talking about mechanically it being something that they didn't know if they could pull off from Magic. It was one of the most ambitious sets as far as from a design standpoint, as far as mechanics and things like that, and what they're trying to do mechanically within the set. They almost thought that they couldn't pull off, and they managed to figure out a way to pull it off, and they're even surprised themselves that they were able to do it. So we do have some concept art here for the set. Here we see Chandra, and she's hugging someone that looks a little older than herself, although maybe it is herself. Chandra herself looks a little bit different here than in some other versions of the character in the past, some other versions of the art for the character. So I'm going to go out on a limb and try and put the pieces of the puzzle together. They think this is going to be an epic end to a story. The set's called, what, Reality Fracture, right? And it looks like Chandra, there's something off about Chandra. My guess is that they're going to tap into like the multiversal plot lines that a lot of IPs are trying to explore these days, like especially Marvel with like the Secret Wars saga and that sort of thing. I think you're gonna see like multiple versions, multiple existences, multiple timelines, if you will, of characters and planes in this set. I think reality is going to be fractured as we know it, and there's going to be like weird, bizarro versions of characters. There's going to be like a Chandra from an alternate timeline who grew up different and maybe harnessed ice instead of fire. Something like that. I'm not necessarily saying that's what's going to happen because it looks like she is using fire here, but I think things along those lines. I think they're really going to take the color pie and flip it upside down and do a lot of crazy things. You know, they could have blue and alternate blue, and they could have red and alternate red. They could have like 10 colors in a weird way, because you have like the colors as we know it in this timeline, but then you have like the fractured timeline that splits off, and maybe all of the colors are represented completely differently. The closest thing I think to what I think this might end up being is like the Time Spiral set that showed us all of this crazy, ridiculous, off-the-wall stuff, some of which would be coming to Magic down the line and did, and some of it we still haven't ever seen again since Time Spiral. I think this set's going to do something similar. I think it's going to be incredibly ambitious, give us these alternate timelines, just break reality, and have some insanely crazy mechanics that sort of delve into that. So if you're watching this way down the line and we already know what the mechanics and what the whole premise of this set is, let me know if I'm right or wrong, because I'm really curious to see if this is the direction they go. But this is definitely going to be a huge saga ending set to a huge storyline arc that they're in the middle of setting up right now, and I can't wait to see what happens. The last set of 2026 is Star Trek. That's right, Star Trek is actually coming to Magic the Gathering, and it makes sense. We just got Edge of Eternities not too long ago, and that introduced sci-fi into Magic the Gathering. And I mean like sci-fi. because we've dipped our toes into it before with things like Kamigawa Neon Dynasty and stuff like that with Cyberpunk, but we've never gone full-on sci-fi space opera. And now that we know that a Star Trek set is coming, it just makes all the sense in the world that Edge of Eternities happened first, because I feel like they knew they were going to do Star Trek first, and they wanted to do an in-universe set to prime us for sci-fi, to get us used to sci-fi being in Magic, so it doesn't feel as much like a crazy tone shift when Star Trek comes. So with all of that in mind, it just makes perfect sense. Edge of Eternities introduced, you know, stationing spacecraft and all of the hallmarks that you'd expect to see in a science fiction set, and I feel like a lot of those mechanics are going to carry over to Star Trek. There will probably be some new mechanics as well. Every standard set tends to have some new mechanics, and I'm excited to see what that ends up looking like. I always loved Star Trek as a kid. I watched it growing up, and I'm really excited to see what they do with this. I don't necessarily think Star Trek is the best IP to use for Magic the Gathering, and I don't know how I feel about it being in standard for like 3 years, and if it will wear out its welcome. But I am still excited to see what's going to happen in this set and what kind of cards they're going to make. And I'm a little bit excited based on some of the art they showed. So first of all, we see Captain Kirk boldly going, the art for that. And the art looks pretty good, I'm not going to lie. They did mention, they confirmed that they're going to be covering all of the different moments in time for Star Trek, all of the different generations, if you will. Right down from the original series down to the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, the movies, like all that stuff, Discovery. I really think they're going to cover pretty much all of it. They all but confirmed that. They definitely said they're going to cover a lot of different generational leaps within Star Trek. So you could probably expect to see pretty much everything you would want to see out of Star Trek all dumped into this one set. We also got a look here at some Klingons, or at least a Klingon. This is very much an original Klingon design from the original series when you look at that phaser. And then the last picture that they showed is the one that got me the most excited, because until I saw this picture, I was thinking of Star Trek simply in the terms of technology and science fiction and spacecraft and that sort of thing. And I totally forgot that there are some crazy creatures in the Star Trek universe that just totally fit in with everything that Magic's already doing, just from a like cosmic mystery magic sort of phenomenon kind of way. And the crystalline entity is a perfect example of that. If you guys remember, in the Next Generation, the crystalline entity pairs up with Data's brother Lore, and all sorts of crazy stuff happens. The crystalline entity is very, very exciting. I hope we get a Lore card and that it interacts with the crystalline entity somehow. But even just seeing something like this and seeing how far they're willing to go in a direction that fits a little bit more with Magic the Gathering than like phasers and spaceships do, has me pretty excited, I'm not gonna lie. This is the one picture that gave me the most hope, and I'm just really looking forward to what else this set is bringing, to be completely honest. But that is gonna do it for this video. So thank you guys so much for checking it out. Like I said at the beginning, if you haven't seen all of the Lorwyn Eclipsed spoilers yet, I'm going to link that in the description and in the comments. Ton of really cool mechanics were spoiled, really cool cards, so definitely check those out. And as soon as more information drops on any of these sets, I will make sure to make a video so that you guys get that information as soon as possible. So make sure you like, subscribe, do the thing, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck text, that's somewhere over there. And if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.